Welcome to this YouTube channel. Today we are going to look at how to use multiple sheets, tables on multiple sheets in a pivot table. So I have sheet 1 here, which has the cells, the customer number, and the cells for each of these customers. Then I have sheet 2, which has the customer number and the name. So I want to combine these two sheets using the pivot table, and I'm going to generate my pivot table from these two different sheets. One thing to note, which is very important, where it will work, is there has to be a common field. For example, customer number here is in sheet 1 and also in sheet 2, as you can see. So this is our common field. So for this approach to work, there has to be a common field. And this is in database language, they call the primary key. The primary key, a unique identifier of a record. So each of these customers are uniquely identified by these numbers. So let's get started. And by the way, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. So let's get started and try to do our pivot table. First thing I've done is to change this data into a table. The shortcut is Ctrl+T, and that's the shortcut you use. Then if I go to design, I've called this one's table cells. You can see right there. So this, because this is my cells table, then I've also done the same. Click here, Ctrl+T, to ask you whether your table has headers. You say yes, and you give it, you go in design and give it a name. So I've given this one the name of master. So with that out of the way, we can start building our pivot table from multiple sheets. I'm using an example of 2 sheets, but they can be as many as possible, provided that there is a common field, which I'm calling in the database language, which they call primary key. So I go under insert, the usual approach, then say pivot table. Here it identifies my master, my table as master, and I'm okay with that. Then right down here, if you're going to use the multiple sheet approach, there's something important down here, which says add this data to a data model. You need to click that, and above it here you see the word choose whether you want to analyze multiple tables. So in our case, we have 2 tables, but they can be more than 2. And because I want to analyze more than 1 table, so I have to click this down here, which says add this data to a data model. What this does is the data is added to a model, and with that, it creates one model where it adds the data. So you say, okay. Now it brings the usual dialog for which is the pivot table fields. Now, as you can observe, on top here, we have the active one, and then we have the all right here. So if I go under all, you'll clearly see that my 2 tables have been identified under these pivot table fields. So I have my masters here, and I have my cells here. So before I go any further, I think I need to go up here. When you click on the pivot table, there are these analyze and design tabs that appear. So now I've clicked under analyze, and when I move to the right, there is this tab button here called relationships. Now, the purpose of this is to create a relationship in our two tables. That is the master table, which has the ID of the customer and the name, and the other table of sales, which has the customer ID and the sales value. So for Excel to understand how these two tables are related, we need to use this relationship field. So the moment I click on that, I think I had one there. Let me delete it and show you from scratch. So I click on new. On the first, it is saying foreign key, and down here it is saying primary key. So how our tables related to the other. So I'm going to come here and say my sales here is related to the foreign key is in this sales table is the customer number, and this sales is related to the master through another key, which is the primary key. So in other words, what you place under these two fields is the common field. So the common field in the sales table is the customer number, and it also reflects in our master as well. So having done that, say OK, and now our fields, our two tables are related. Now, based on that, now I can do whatever I want now using the usual approach on how we do our pivot table. For example, I'll need to pick customer number. Then I'll need a name. And then I'll need my sales value right there. So as you can see, I've selected fields from the two different tables, and I've created one table which has the customer ID, the customer name, and the sales of each of these customers. So this way, we are able to use multiple sheets with a common data field, which is a primary key in one table and a foreign key in another table. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe if you have not yet, and see you in the next video. Have a great day.